Every great story begins quietly, not with action, but with a moment that reveals something deeper about human nature. And the Bhagavad Gita is no exception. It doesn't just tell us what to think, it slowly teaches us how to see. But before we begin, here is a question to hold in your mind for the next 15 minutes. What is actually happening on this battlefield and inside it before a single arrow is ever released? Stay with this question until the end. Imagine a vast battlefield. The ground is still, the sky is heavy, and two armies stand face to face. On one side, the Pandavas, on the other, the Kauravas. But this is not just a war between kingdoms. It is a war between brothers, between cousins, between teachers and students, between people bound by blood, now divided by destiny. This is Kurukshetra, a place where history is about to turn. But something even more important is already happening before a single arrow is released, before the conches are blown. The real battle begins in the mind. Fear, attachment, comparison, anxiety, uncertainty. These emotions rise quietly, but powerfully. And they are not just ancient emotions, they are ours too. Because every human being at some point stands on their own Kurukshetra. A difficult choice, a conflict, a moment of confusion, a battlefield within. And that is why the Bhagavad Gita is timeless. Let us enter the opening moments of the Gita, verse by verse. Verse 1.1. The question begins. Dhritarashtra, the blind king, asks Sanjay, "What is happening on the battlefield of Kurukshetra?" But notice something subtle. He says, "My sons for one side, and sons of Pandu for the other." Even before the war begins, his words reveal attachment, because language always exposes the mind. What we call mind shapes how we see the world. Think about how often this happens in your own life. My team versus the other department. My side of the story versus their excuse. The moment we divide the world into mine and theirs, we've already taken a position before we've even looked at the facts. Verse 1.2. The observer responds. Sanjay begins to describe the scene. He says Duryodhana, seeing the Pandav army, goes immediately to his teacher Drona. Even in confidence, doubt appears. Because when pressure rises, the mind seeks reassurance. Verse 1.3. The mind focuses on threat. Duryodhana says, "Look at the mighty army of the Pandavis." He begins pointing out their strength, one by one. But notice what is happening. The mind under stress does not see balance. It sees challenge first. Verse 1.4. Comparison begins. He lists great warriors, Bhima, Arjuna, and others. Each name adds weight. Each name increases pressure because comparison is often born from fear. Verse 1.5. The mind amplifies fear. The list continues. More warriors, more strength, more threat, and slowly, the opposing side begins to feel overwhelming. But is it truly overwhelming, or is the mind magnifying it? Verse 1.6, full perception, partial clarity. Now the entire Pandava strength is laid out, but something is missing, balance. Because when we focus only on one side, clarity disappears and perception becomes distorted. Verse 1.7 to 1.11, reassurance through numbers. Now something interesting happens. Duryodhana, having just admitted the strength of his enemy, turns around and begins listing his own commanders: Bhishma, Karna, Kripa, Ashwathama, name after name after name. He tells Drona, "Our army protected by Bhishma is unlimited. Theirs protected by Bhima is limited." Notice this pattern carefully, because you will recognize it in your own life. Duryodhana is not calm. He is talking himself into confidence. This is what psychologists today might call reassurance seeking. When we are anxious about a decision, we often don't look for truth. We look for evidence that supports the version of reality we want to believe. We reread the text message 10 times, hoping the tone changes. We ask 5 people the same question, hoping one of them tells us what we want to hear. We list our own strengths loudly, precisely because somewhere inside we doubt them. Duryodhana's counting is not strategy. It is anxiety wearing the costume of confidence. And here's the deeper truth hidden in these verses. The loudest confidence often lives right next door to the quietest fear. Verse 1.12 to 1.19, the sound before the storm. Bhishma, the grand old commander, blows his conch first. A sound so loud, it is said to have echoed like a lion's roar. Then one by one, the great warriors answer. Krishna blows the Panchajanya. Arjuna blows the Devaduta. Bhima's conch roars like distant thunder. Each sound is a declaration. Each sound says, I am here, I am ready. And notice something about sound itself. Before any arrow flies, before any blood is spilled, it is sound, vibration, intention, presence that fills the battlefield first. This is worth sitting with, because in our lives too, before we act, we announce ourselves through our words, through our tone, through the energy we carry into a room. The conch is blown before the war begins. The tone is set before the conversation begins. The mindset is chosen before the day begins. How you sound often decides how the day unfolds. Now the armies are ready. The sky trembles with sound. And on the Pandava side, one man asks for something unusual, not a weapon, not a strategy. He asks for a better view. Verse 1.20 to 1.25, the chariot between 2 armies. Arjuna turns to Krishna, his charioteer, and says, Krishna, drive my chariot to the middle. I want to see who I am really fighting. This is not fear yet. This is honesty. Arjuna does not want illusions. He does not want comfort. He wants clarity, even if clarity hurts. Krishna, without argument, drives the chariot forward, right between the 2 armies, and says, Look, Arjuna, behold the assembled Kurus. And this is one of the most quietly powerful lessons in the entire Gita. Krishna does not stop Arjuna from looking closely at the problem. He does not say, don't overthink it. He does not say, just fight and don't ask questions. He drives him closer. Because true guidance does not shield us from difficulty. It helps us see difficulty clearly and then walk through it. In daily life, we often want to avoid looking too closely at what troubles us. The difficult conversation, the uncertain diagnosis, the failing relationship, the financial fear. We drive our own chariot away from the center. But Krishna teaches something different here, quietly, without a single verse of philosophy yet. Clarity begins where avoidance ends. Verse 1.26 to 1.30. The body reacts first. Arjuna looks around. He sees his grandfather Bhishma. He sees his teacher Drona. He sees uncles, cousins, friends, all standing on the opposite side, ready to die by his hand. And something breaks. The text says his limbs grow weak, his mouth goes dry, his body trembles. His bow, the Gandhava, slips from his hand. Notice, this is not described as an emotion first. It is described as a physical collapse. This is important because anxiety, real anxiety, rarely begins as a thought. It begins in the body. The tight chest, the shallow breath, the heavy limbs. Arjuna is one of the greatest warriors alive. And yet, in this moment, he cannot lift his own bow. This tells us something timeless. Skill does not disappear under pressure. Access to skill disappears. Every one of us has had this moment, the presentation we knew perfectly and forgot the second we stood up, the answer we knew and blanked on in the interview, the words we wanted to say and couldn't in the argument that mattered most. It is not that the ability left us. It is that the nervous system took over before the mind could. Verse 1.31 to 1.45. The justification of withdrawal. Arjuna now speaks, and his words are intelligent, persuasive, even noble sounding. He says, "What is the use of kingdom, victory, even pleasure, if those I fight for are the very ones I would be killing?" He speaks of family, of tradition, of the sin of destroying one's own lineage. He warns that when family structures collapse, chaos follows, and that it would be better to be killed, unarmed and unresisting, than to commit this act. And here's something subtle we must not miss. Arjuna's confusion doesn't sound like confusion. It sounds like wisdom. This is one of the most important psychological insights hidden inside the Gita. Our avoidance often disguises itself as virtue. We call procrastination waiting for the right time. We call fear of conflict keeping the peace. We call refusal to decide staying open-minded. We call giving up letting go. Arjuna's words are beautifully spoken, but underneath them is not wisdom. It is grief, attachment, fear of loss dressed in noble language. This does not mean Arjuna is wrong to feel what he feels. His grief is real. His love for his family is real. But real feeling and right action are not always the same thing. And learning to tell the difference is exactly what the rest of the Gita will teach him. Verse 1.46 to 1.47. The fall. Finally, Arjuna sits down in his chariot, bow and arrows slipping from his hands, his mind, in his own words, overwhelmed with sorrow. This is the end of chapter 1. Not with a battle, not with a victory, but with a good man, frozen. And now we notice something profound. The war has not begun. No arrows have been fired. No true clash has occurred. And yet, the battle is already raging. Inside minds, Dhritarashtra is attached. Duryodhana is anxious, hiding behind numbers. Arjuna is frozen, hiding behind noble words. Because the greatest wars in life do not begin on the battlefield. They begin within us. So let's bring this down to your own life for a moment. Where in your world right now are you counting your allies like Duryodhana, trying to talk yourself into confidence you don't quite feel? Where are you avoiding a closer look, the way Arjuna almost did, before he asked Krishna to drive him to the center? And where has a noble-sounding reason quietly become an excuse to stay frozen? These are not ancient questions. They are Monday morning questions. They are questions for the difficult email you haven't sent, the decision you keep circling, the conversation you keep postponing, before Krishna speaks, before Arjuna questions, before destiny unfolds. The Gita quietly shows us something powerful. Most battles are decided in the mind before they appear in the world. Arjuna has collapsed. His bow lies at his feet. And for the first time in his life, the greatest archer of his generation has nothing to offer but silence and sorrow. In the next episode, Krishna finally speaks, not with comfort, but with a challenge that will change the way Arjuna sees his own mind, his own body, and his own fear forever. We will learn why Krishna's first words to a grieving man were not, "I understand," But where has this weakness come from? And we will begin to understand a teaching so practical, it applies as much to a boardroom or a bedroom as it does to a battlefield. If this journey resonated with you, join us as we continue exploring the Bhagavad Gita, verse by verse, because this is not just history, it is a mirror. Until next time, Jai Shri Krishna.